Well, as a foundation for that, let me say a little bit more about factors that contribute developmentally to secure attachment, because it's our understanding of what promotes secure attachment in infants based on their relational dynamic with their caregivers that serves as the foundation for what we know to be effective for treatment, for psychotherapy, for adults with insecure attachment. So from all the wonderful research and exploration that's been done for approaching 100 years now within the field of attachment in Western psychology, there's a lot that's been identified as parental behaviors that tend to support attachment security. Mary Ainsworth talked about maternal responsiveness as a general category that tends to support the attachment security. So again, a lot been written about this, a lot of description. Dan Brown and I and the others who work together to pull this model and this set of methods together developed something that we call the 5 conditions that promote secure attachment. And we don't say we made these up, but we say that we created this this framework that incorporates all that's known out there and highlights what we consider to be the particularly important elements. So let me go through those so those are clear. So each one involves parental behavior that we think will promote attachment security and the infant experience based on that behavior that becomes important for the security to develop within the infant. Okay, so, for example, it's important for a child to feel more often than not safe in connection with the caregivers, and that the caregiver will be available to promote and create safety anytime the child is feeling there's some threat or risk or danger. This is fundamental to attachment security. This is fundamental to the biological basis for attachment, that there are various threats that will occur always with the infant in the world. The threats from the outside and threats from the inside if there's like an illness or a sickness that develops. So the parent ideally provides protection more often than not, and the infant, more often than not, in relation to the caregiver, feels safe. You and your listeners, our listeners at the moment, have probably noticed that I've often said more often than not. And this is, let me highlight why this is important too. A lot of parents become very frightened and concerned, particularly if there's a tendency toward anxious preoccupation, to think, oh no, I have to be there for the best possible ways for my child. I need to help them develop attachment security. What if I'm not a good enough parent and I do the wrong things and they develop insecurity or something bad happens? Okay, that's a common experience, of course, that parents have. But parents don't have to be there and do all the right things 100% of the time. And in fact, doing all the right things, like meeting every need that the child has moment to moment, as soon as the need arises, that actually will create more problems for the child than less. Because if a child has his or her needs always met right away, what's one effect of that? There won't be the opportunity to develop frustration tolerance. There won't be the opportunity to be able to handle outside of the 100% there parent when the world isn't 100% there, when the world is disappointing. If the child has learned through experience that sometimes there's disappointment with caregivers, that will be transferred to later adult life when disappointing experiences happen, and the child then, or the later adult can say, yeah, okay, this is hard, I'm disappointed, but I can handle this, it's okay. So I like to think that more often than not means if a parent can, say, provide these 5 conditions that promote secure attachment, maybe 70% of the time. Again, not a hard number, but roughly 70% of the time. That's more often than not. That will actually best promote the security and all the developmental dynamics within the child. So, child feels safe and secure more often than not in the context of the parent. The parent is able to provide protection and when that's needed for the child. Second condition is the parent being attuned to the states of the child, the parent being present and attentive in a way that helps the parent interpret what's going on with the child even before he or she's able to speak and describe what's going on. The child experience is being seen and known and valued. Okay? When a parent is attentive, is interested and available and really wants to understand what's going on with the child will feel seen and known. That's a very important component. I mentioned upset and soothing earlier on. When a child is upset and distressed, which of course children are often upset and distressed, if more often than not, because of attunement to the child's states, the caregiver can provide soothing and comforting that meets the child's needs in that moment, that will be a support for security and, as I referred to earlier, a support for developing emotion regulation skills, because the experience of being soothed by the caregiver gets internalized. And then later in life, when I'm upset, oh yeah, okay, well, I know how to handle this. I can do it. Or I know who to go to get some help, because as a child, I could go to my primary caregivers for help when I was upset. So that's the third. The fourth condition would be the child feeling valued and cherished even by the parent, by the caregivers. On the caregiver's part, it's the caregiver being delighted by the very being of the child. Not only what the child does, like getting, behaving the way that the parent wants him or her to, but just simply for being the child's self. The parent is delighted by that, shows that through facial expression, shows that through verbal expression, shows that through hugging, through contact. I love you. You're just such a wonderful baby. More often than not, the child experiences that the parents are delighted in him or herself, his very being. Again, no parent is going to be delighted all the time by a child. Plenty of the time, parent's going to be really frustrated and really upset. It's like, oh, well,
I know. I got two little ones. Right now, one is 1.5, the other one is 3. So
oh my goodness,
it's crazy. But when you speak about the delight, I feel it in my heart, like just the warmth. But there's also many moments of frustration.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's normal, and that you can have and honor the experiences of frustration in the context of also knowing that you have that just fundamental delight, with your children. That's beautiful, and they'll take that in. They will take that in, even if it doesn't seem like it right away when they're in this challenging developmental phase or phases. And so the fifth condition is the parent being able to support the child's exploration and discovery. Okay, this usually is something that occurs a little bit later during infancy and young childhood, when the child starts to, explore a little bit more. It can happen very early in terms of just, say, seeing a mobile hanging over the crib, and the baby gets interested in that. An attuned, present parent supporting the exploration will notice the baby seeing those hanging figures, being drawn to the motion and the color and the light, and kind of go, oh, yes, how wonderful. It's like supporting the experience of that. So this actually supports not particularly Well, in the context of the attachment relationship, of a secure promoting attachment, security promoting attachment relationship, the infant and young child will have the experience that the attachment figure is encouraging attention away from the attachment figure sometimes, even if it's in relation with the attachment figure. Over time, when there's security that develops, that security fundamentally gives the child the sense that, okay, my caregiver will be here whenever I need it, whenever I need him or her. But right now, I don't need that. I feel pretty comfortable, pretty confident, and wow, look at that on the other side of the room. Wow, what's that? And I'm going to crawl over and get that. Okay? Moving away from the caregiver, from the attachment connection in the moment. But if there's a secure base internalized, which is a hallmark of attachment security, according to Mary Ainsworth, I can crawl over to that thing on the other side of the room and explore it, because I know that if I get afraid or if something happens or I just want to go back and make contact, I can count on the reliable availability of my caregiver. So something happens, I get scared, I get upset and I crawl back really fast, and then mom is there to hug me and hold me, or dad is there to reassure me. Okay, so support for exploration or discovery.